Hello, Summer of Learning students. I'm Mr. Robert, and I'm here for some summer math. Today I'm going to do a mini lesson on fraction equivalence. You'll need your packet, a pencil, and some crayons. Let's get started.
Let's start off with 1/2. What are some other ways that you can say or write 1/2? Take 1 minute to write down all the other ways you can think of to say 1/2.
If you would like, you can pause the video, do some thinking on your own, and then come back to the video when you are done thinking.
I'm going to list just some of the ways that you could say 1/2, an equivalent fraction to 1/2. Of course, there's lots of them, right? See if you have some of the ones that I can think of. 2/4, 3/6, 4/8, 5/10, 10/20, 50/100, 1,000 2,000. Those are just some of the ways that I thought of saying 1/2. What do you notice about all of those different ways to say 1/2? Well, one thing I notice is that all of the denominators, the number on the bottom of the fraction, they're all even. 2,000 is an even number. 6 is an even number. 10 is an even number. 100 is an even number. That's one thing I notice. Another thing I notice is that the numerator is the denominator divided by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 20 divided by 2 is 10. I also notice that the denominator is the numerator times 2. 50 times 2 is 100. 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4. What other things do you notice about these numbers? Let's do another one. What are some equivalent fractions that you can think of for 1/3? What are some other ways to write 1/3?
If you would like, you can pause the video, do some thinking on your own, and then come back to the video when you are done thinking.
Here are some equivalent fractions that I thought of for 1/3. 2/6, 3/9, 4/12, 5/15, 25/75, 300/900. Those are just some equivalent fractions for 1/3. What do you notice? Now take a minute and see how many equivalent fractions you can write for 3/4.
If you would like, you can pause the video, do some thinking on your own, and then come back to the video when you are done thinking.
When you multiply any number times 1, you get the same number. 1 times 3/4 equals 3/4. But there are lots of different ways I could say 1. I could say 2/2, or I could say 3/3, or I could say 4/4, or I could say 10/10. So I can also multiply these forms of 1 times 3/4 to get other equivalent fractions to 3/4. If I multiply 3/4 times 2/2, 3 times 2 is 6, and 4 times 2 is 8, so 3/4 is equivalent to 6/8. If I multiply 3/4 times 3/3, which is 1, I'll still get 3/4. 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 4 is 12. So 9/12 is the same as 3/4. If I multiply it times 4 over 4, 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. So 12/16 is the same as 3/4. And if I use this form of 1, 10 over 10, 10/10, 10 times 3 is 30. 10 times 4 is 40. So 30/40 is also the same as 3/4. Now, as I've been finding equivalent fractions, you've noticed that my numerator and denominator have gotten bigger. The numerator and the denominator have gotten bigger, but the fraction is still the same. 3/4 is the same as 9/12, but this numerator 9 is bigger than 3, but the denominator 12 is also bigger than 5. We're going to do equivalent fractions with this one, 12/18, but I want you to see if you can find an equivalent fraction where the denominator and the numerator are both smaller numbers than 12 and 18. Try that.
If you would like, you can pause the video, do some thinking on your own, and then come back to the video when you are done thinking.
Now, I said if you multiply a fraction times 1 or times any form of 1, you should still get an equivalent fraction. That's also true if you divide a fraction by 1. If I divide 12/18 by 1 or by any form of 1, I should get an equivalent fraction. So 2/2 is 1. If I divide both the numerator and the denominator by 2, 12 divided by 2 is 6. 18 divided by 2 is 9. Then I get an equivalent fraction. 12/18 is equivalent to 6/9. Let's divide by 3/3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 18 divided by 3 is 6. So 4/6 is an equivalent fraction to 12/18. Let's do 6/6. I'll divide 12/18 by 6/6. 12 divided by 6 is 2. 18 divided by 6 is 3. So 2/3 is also an equivalent fraction to 12/18. Now I can try to divide 12/18 by 4/4. 12 divided by 4 is 3, but 18 divided by 4, it doesn't go in equally. So 4/4, even though this is a form of 1, it's not a form of 1 that I can use to get an equivalent fraction. Now it's your turn. I want you to see if you can find equivalent fractions for 25/30ths, and you can either reduce or make smaller the numerator and the denominator, or you can increase the numerator and denominator and make them bigger. But when you're reducing or increasing the numerator and the denominator, if you're multiplying or dividing by 1, you should still get an equivalent fraction. So try to find equivalent fractions for 25/30ths, and when you're done with that, try to find equivalent fractions for 25/40ths.
If you'd like, you can pause the video, do some work on your own, and then come back to the video when you are done working. So as we can see, there are lots of ways to write equivalent fractions or fractions that are equal to each other. If you multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the same number, you'll get an equivalent fraction. If you divide both the numerator and the denominator by the same number, you'll also get an equivalent fraction, because in both cases, you're either multiplying or dividing your fractions by 1, and any number times 1 is the same number. Now try some worksheets in your packet. There are some worksheets that are labeled fraction squares, which will use some of the knowledge we've just been reviewing in this mini lesson. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.